Hey guys, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is the very human Commander Cock.
True. And here's Captain Foley.
I am. And today we're going to be talking about Charades.
Episode 5, Stuart, and of course the sequel to Body Swap from Season 1. Another hour episode. They keep throwing us these long episodes. Excellent. What do you think of the episode?
I rather enjoyed it. More than I thought I would. There were so many micro expressions and just not even micro expressions, like huge expressions from Spock that ended up getting more screen caps than I expected. So I'm sorry in advance. And it was really good. It was really fun. The reactions from Pike were amazing. Seeing Amanda back, the whole thing, learning more about the Vulcan ceremonies. The Spock and Chapel was really good as well. There's mention of Dr. Corby in the first part as well. Yeah, because Mbanga asks her, what's the three principles of medicine? But what are Corby's three principles of medicine? Which she rhymes off. So, yeah, I thought it was a really fun episode. More of a lighthearted one. Had some at the beginning, some TOS-styled comedic music, which was, to my surprise, something I enjoyed quite a bit. So, it definitely has a fun vibe to it, and I really enjoyed seeing Amanda back. I thought two things were going to happen at the end that didn't, but we'll get into those a little bit later. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It is a fun, just kind of not have to think about anything episode, honestly. And to see Ethan Peck be able to actually act and emote and, have fun with it was really interesting. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I anticipated I would, and that's good. So, how about you? What did you think?
Well, I mean, this is how you do a bottle show, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, cheap as chips. But guess what? The cast from Retainer, the good cast, give them good stuff. Look, you make magic. You know what I mean? You don't need these elaborate giant things. Although the LED wall obviously was the giant thing. That's the most perfect sci-fi use of it. Just a random space environment.
Space. Yeah.
No, it was really good. I knew I was going to enjoy it because they've done well with these things previously. The question was it going to live up to Seasons 1's epic and excellent body swap? They're too different to directly compare. So that isn't the right thing to say because they're just different. But it's a great sequel in the sense that it's the same story continued, but different enough to be different. So well done them for that. It isn't just a repeating of previously. No, it was really good. There was a lot of genuinely funny moments to me anyway. Multiple laugh out louds, which is this show doesn't really do that the best. Like the Ortega stuff tends to be more cringe humor versus, for me, really snap funny. This had many.
Yeah, I was smiling and laughing more than I anticipated I was. So it was good.
I think hands down the best of this season so far. In terms of overall quality, it was aiming to do less. Obviously, but what it does with that storyline, I think it excels at better than anything this season. Obviously, you can talk about that in the live. And boy, standout, steals the scene award to Pring's dad.
Yeah.
I mean, just nailing every inclination was just
the poor guy.
Bad.
I feel bad for him.
So bad. Bring him back. He was really good. I mean, the jokes were really genuinely on point because it's such a. There's a really strong line of making fun of Vulcans or making fun of our characters. It's the hardest line, when Spock is laughing or whatnot. Are you laughing at him, with him, or being sympathetic with him? When Pike is doing a silly thing, is the dialogue to make fun of him or to celebrate the Vulcanness or to make the mum look silly? And they kept varying the tone so that, it was a good thing. I liked the joke about the food. The dad loved it, clearly. He didn't care that it wasn't perfect. It was pretty damn close. And it was funny, and every time was funny, and you don't like the mum. And she did a very good job at that. But also you can sympathise, because, they lay out her ideas straight, flat, like a Vulcan would, right? And then when she, lists off why she doesn't like Spock, they're all technical reasons. As he says, someone I can't change, someone I chose.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for everyone. Really, honestly, yeah. I just wish that the T'Pring Spock thing we didn't have TOS, because I love the T'Pring actress. She's so good at this role. They have good chemistry. I was really sad about the last 3 minutes. It's exciting for future stories. But boy, I have more sympathy for T'Pring, because you can tell that's the moment she's like, can I commit to this guy? And then Ston is like, well, hell, I've got this Vulcan shoulder to not cry on. Like, you can sense it organically moving to TOS, and that makes me sad, because I was really enjoying their chemistry.
Obviously, T'Pring's going to go back and take some time off and get to know Ston better, and that kind of wraps that up. But I thought two things were going to happen at the end. One, the aliens were going to overcompensate when they repaired Spock and give him more Vulcanness, hence the Spock we see in TOS, and no connection to Chapel. Or T'Pring was going to want to take some time off, which happened, and that Chapel would be accepted to the Vulcan program, have to leave right away, so Spock wouldn't have a chance to get to know her any better, and then she'd end up falling in love with Kirby, or Dr. Corby, and then when that all went wrong and she comes back, it's already all moved on. But now that they're together, and it's going to be weird that they had a relationship. I wish that it was that unrequited love that just it didn't ever happen, and it was all just be based on circumstance. Those are the two things I thought would happen, and sadly they didn't.
Well, it's a giant retcon now to go back and watch TOS thinking, oh, those guys have done the nasty on several occasions, because they'll see neither actor put any of that in the performance. It's not there in even 1%. So it'd be weird to go back and look at that. Obviously, they're all adults, etc. Doesn't have to be in it, but that was a shock. But for this show's dynamic, it's a nice curve into stories. That's why they did it, right? Now, I was what was the thing that ended my head right at the end of the episode? It fades to black. All I thought was, we were on a break. We're going Ross and Rachel with it.
Yeah.
That's all this is, right?
Yeah.
But he's allowed to go with someone else in theory, but morally, is it okay? It's very Ross and Rachel of them. And it's, as basic drama as you could possibly get. So I'm very intrigued to see. Because then if T'Pring went off and slept with Ston, should we feel bad for Spock? No, now, right?
Yeah. That's what I mean. The missed opportunity of her getting accepted or the Chapel getting accepted to the program, them missing out on being able to do this, even though Spock wants to, and she wants to, and then she meets Corby and falls in love with Corby.
But this is a more exciting story, though. There's more to do versus leaving it on a nothing note. This actually gets them further, pushes it forward. It
does. But I thought it'd be more interesting to do it another way.
And of course leads into a part 3 of this story, which of course is then T'Pring comes back saying, I've decided we are meant for each other. There's a part, it feels like a trilogy of stories now.
Oh, for sure.
Because as with many of these characters, there's an end point. We know that this is not a happy ending story. So therefore the drama is interesting. But again, T'Pring, beautiful performance, really nuanced. The mum, Amanda Grayson. But I think we were both worried she was only going to be in that one scene in the transporter room. But once they sort of said, oh no, she's going to help teach. Okay, now we're giving her the time to really play the material. And she definitely kept rising to the scenes. And again, nothing against her, just whatever we saw in Discovery, this was a nice way of bringing her back in. And of course, Sarek is a non-usable character, ostensibly. She is great, right? This is the loophole of that, right? And the ending notes with her was beautiful. We all knew that innately, Leon Vulcan being sort of abused for 20 years, but it was very nice the way they handled that and expressed it. And there's such subtlety and nuance that Discovery just was lacking for the first 2 seasons with any of these themes. This was there in droves, and it shows the difference in storytelling and the maturity that this show is bringing us. While still being silly.
I did find it interesting that one of the moons of Vulcan, which Vulcan has no moons, even though it does, was called Kirkhoff. And the Kirkovians. Definitely linked to Kirk there. I love how also, too, you're outside of your response period and you don't have a receipt, so you can't return. That was interesting. I love the way that was handled as well. That's quite interesting. And the way she rebuffs the guy at the end, he's like, we're not accepting you. She's like, I communicated with an ancient interdimensional race today about medicine. And he's like, ooh, tell me about it. It's like, nope, you'll have to read about it. Maybe your program's not good enough for me. I loved that. That was that's awesome. Because it's archaeological medicine that she was applying for. So that just was beautiful.
It's very much that modernistic take of she's going to sass her way out of it, right? You wouldn't do that 80s, 90s, whatever. But that's who the character is, so it feels better. But it for me, it's more about the sense of, Vulcans are more book based, they're more learned based, and as you said earlier, repetition, memorization, using the facts of the past. The fact they didn't even look at the out there and doing stuff, which is where she's making her personal discoveries, because she's able to go to the edge where it's not been discovered, do a big thing, be part of a team, make a discovery. And here he is just on Vulcan, sitting around a table and talking about possible things, and here she is doing a thing. Yeah, seeing that Vulcan actor have that fine line of, how do I emote that I'm goddamn jealous and goddamn interested, but also I don't like this woman because she's stupid, but also I just sat at a table for the last 6 years. Yeah, fun for sure. She applied to that to go from Spock as well, right? To have a fresh start. So it was a symptom of something else. So there's made more sense to be able to say, nah. But, frontier medicine's fun for a reason, right?
As Bashir will tell you. Yes.
Exactly. And Pike, this is why Pike and Spock, these two actors, these two portrayals, got a TV show made. They got Paramount to sign off tens of millions. And Pike is on Prime Pike. Spock is having a lot of fun. Ethan's doing a really good nuanced job here, as he often does. He's a nuanced actor. When you give him the stuff, he can do it.
Yeah.
Doing really well this week. As like a team, really good team.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite Pike moment is where he's like, the dad's like, "Do you got any more of that food?" And he's like, "Yeah, just a second." And then as he's coming back with the tray, Spock's like, "Hey, it's this whole thing. I've been human the whole time." And he just like, the facial, the reactions of Pike in this episode were just sublime. They're awesome. This was a really good, fun episode, and it's a feel-good episode, I think. So,
but it's also filled with that, as we often say, the Star Trek-isms, that it's actually all rooted in Vulcan culture. It's obviously slightly making fun of them because anything, we're looking down on them in a sense, but we're still doing the ceremonies. There is still that reasonable line, but you're learning, you're feeling, you're sensing, you're getting context for TOS, you're getting context for for Spock. It's rooted in what we know and want to know about Trek, as well as just being people talking in rooms. That's the kind of magic when these sort of cheap shows can go well, versus inventing a new alien race and sort of, okay, cool. Versus this, where it is, I feel like it's added a good amount to Vulcan stuff, and I say, to Pring, I chose you because who you are, and then, oh dear. Ballsy of Spock to reveal who he was, especially as his volcanisms were kicking back in. I mean, his performance changed. There was, he did a good job. There was a kind of a hybrid performance in that scene.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. Well, he was like 70% Vulcan, but he had a bit more free-form cadence of a human.
Yeah.
But kept the emotions. It was very interesting, the choice of performance. And
I love how it was like, he was like standing up for his mom and showing how strong humans can be. I love that. He says he's sorry he hasn't had a chance, or he didn't do this earlier. That was great. Well, when Pring first came aboard, though, I'm like, you should probably pull her aside and tell her so she can help cover for you, considering what you guys have already been through. And then at the end, that pays off with her saying, "Why didn't you just tell me? Everybody else knows. We could have handled it." So yeah, I kind of get her reasoning as to why she's deciding to take a break. And because I was thinking the same thing, just pull her aside and tell her. It's simple. It's like a lot of these shows and storylines. It would be just easier if you just told the person, right?
But that's the thing about the ending. It's so interestingly told because he could, would have told her, but he's entirely right. Vulcans can't lie. She would have given it away in some way or helped him too much, or, her being natural is the best chance of that working. Absolutely. But I love the fact that T'Pring gets the logic. She acknowledges it. She accepts it. But she's had to have a more emotionful side of herself grow that bit more, because Spock is that bit more emotionful. So she's actually, because, let's be honest, if she's wanting to date and marry a man like that, she has to be a bit more, less Vulcan anyway. The fact that she's actually saying, I care for you in a way that's different, that side of you is meant to respect me too, the human side. So Vulcanly, I respect that, but we are different. You didn't trust me in the other way. That was so fascinating to me, because that shows how different she is, how ready she is with him. Because he's right, and she's right. He's trying to be Vulcan, she wants him to be human in that second. It's really fascinating, a way of dealing with that, to make them both right, both wrong. Yeah, really, really good concept, I thought.
Yeah, I loved her acceptance of his human side in that scene. Like, I understand that's part of you. That's why I like, I love you. But Yeah, that was good. It was surprisingly a great episode for me. So yeah,
And you're not the biggest fan of love episodes either, and this kind of sprinkled that. The comedy, and the comedy, obviously, comedy is such a subjective thing, and when it misses, it can miss super hard. So for lines to be funny and to work so well, and yeah.
I mean, there's a reason romantic comedies work. they kind of work on all. They hit all the right emotions to have that feel good, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But also, he had Mbenga feel like a good doctor. In the moments he got that, he had some good lines there. Chapel definitely doctored it up as a character. The rest of the crew, you know, all side characters, but all got to play and have fun with that. You know, everyone got a bit to do. Again, fine line of Spock being, because Spock is not Ethan Peck when he's lost his ears, right? You can't just be, and I really appreciated that. And he also can't speak like Spock either, because that cadence is so deliberate. So I thought the way they approached it was really fascinating. You know, word choice, but he's reacting with his Vulcan language skills, meaning the word choice, but he's no longer forced into that tunnel of cadence that his Vulcan side would do. So I liked that because you can't write one for one, or you can't just write Vulcan dialogue and say Ethan perform like a human. That's not how that would be. So obviously the scenes vary in how I appreciate his performance, because obviously the scenes vary, but it was a really interesting way of approaching that. But I thought it did, overall a really good job, and not a silly job for the most part.
Yeah. And interestingly, the adolescent aspect is just because we know Spock's age here, he's not that old considering how long Vulcans live. So were they implying that he's more of like early, like late 20s kind of thing? As far as a human goes, where it's kind of like that awkward, weird stage where things are changing. It's actually kind of younger in humans, but or it's just because all of a sudden he's human and has to deal with all these things, and he's dealing it like an adolescent would. I thought that was quite interesting as well. I didn't know if they were implying that he's kind of in his adolescent age as far as a Vulcan would be, but I don't think that was the case. So.
I think the hybrid of biologies makes that a little bit too complicated of a question and answer.
Yeah.
You know, yes, no, sort of. I think it's just a good allegory for what. Now, did you think, though, that they were actually implying when he said mixed feelings, things are stirring? Was he actually saying, La'an, you look really, really nice right now? Was that what they were implying?
Yes. Yeah, actually, and she's like, you should just cool down. And she walks away.
So I wasn't sure if that was his Chapel feelings, or if that was like, you're looking pretty good.
That's what it was. Yeah, I think it's just, you're looking pretty good. When she walked away, I expected him to like look at her butt or something. But you know, they didn't go that way. So
yeah, but as they said, you know, how on Earth how on Vulcan do you comprehend, process? You know, I mean, men have attraction, women have attraction. There's nothing to say. You know, we can all appreciate people of opposite, you know, looking nice. But yeah, like I said, they addressed it, skipped past it. And at least now we know that he actually loves bacon.
All the subtleties around that too, like he uses an odor suppressant to deal with the smell on the ship.
That was a big callback, yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting.
And I was kind of surprised they went that route, because that's obviously that's an NX thing. Clearly it was to add the extra whiff of insulting from the mum. That was a setup to a payoff, right? You know, I mean, you can't get more gross than saying there's a smell in the air. Looking at Amanda, Jesus Christ, mean. And the fact that Dad is like, oh yes, like he's so much more grounded. Like, well, I got used to it. Like, I'm not gonna. Oh yes, there's a problem. Yeah, really interesting. But also, you know, you sympathise. I mean, yeah, they have heightened everything. So therefore heightened smell will be a factor.
And again, just one last thing. Number one had like nothing to do except for laugh and hang out with the girls, essentially. I actually thought that scene on the bridge where all four of them are like standing there talking to him and telling him how to speak. He's like, I sound like that? Yes. Yeah, absolutely you do, yeah. I laughed at that for sure because...
I mean, that's pure rom-com.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're allowed that one scene, right? You're allowed one of them because that's, you know... This has not been done yet. As weird as that is, this specific situation in all Trek. So, you know, yeah, you're able to do that.
And I don't think we ever got clarification if Pike gave them permission to take the shuttle. I assumed he did, but
I don't think they worried about that. like they weren't going to get in trouble unless they got killed, in which case I don't think they're going to care. So I mean, Spock hid there's an Illyrian on the ship. I think he'll be able to forgive a parking ticket for stealing a car. I think it's fine. Although, hey, I mean, just not jump back all the way to the beginning, but you mentioned, giant yet irrelevant retcon of space aliens living in the Vulcan system. Okay. So one of Vulcan's moons had a race that was from thousands of years ago. They've now transcended into another dimension, and there's just a portal there. I'm kind of wondering if that's how the Lower Decks team get in. Because I actually thought that was going to be the giant twist, either at the end or in the middle. Like, hashtag we lied, the Lower Decks people appear in episode 5, and then they wander around this timeline for a bit. Because they say a time and space portal. Like, you can't get more. You can't get more of a setup, right? Especially if the Cerritos is at Vulcan and sends a party down. I mean, they've already written their in, actually. Especially if you... Yeah.
I was going to say, and let's be fair. I mean, the moon of Kirkhoff sounds like a very Lower Decks, like the Kirkovians. And then them having the names Yellow and Blue is a very kind of Lower Decks thing.
So I think that might be their clever way of doing it. Because they've just set themselves up rather well.
Possibly.
And, but it's a really big thing. But also, why have the Vulcans never flown a shuttle there and talked to themselves? I mean, it's always weird when this. I think it's, it's like if there was been a space anomaly on the moon and we just discovered it in 2460, but it's been doing radiation for 10,000 years, and then yet they fly a shuttle over it, and within 12 minutes they make. It seems a ridiculous concept, right? There was no. A moon was just discovered, or an anomaly was just discovered. Clearly, it had been there for thousands of years. That was a really odd, because Vulcan, and boy, what an odd thing to just take a whole day just flying around the Vulcan system. They could have done more with that, because that's quite with your whole team. That's the shore leave planet. Go spend time on Vulcan. How many people get to just spend a whole day on Vulcan? That could have been a super interesting concept. Having Ortega's flying into one of the cities and use the LED wall from season 1. They've got backgrounds, right, and just go have dinner in a Vulcan restaurant. I know it would cost more, but you'd never just get a holiday on Vulcan. Small note, right, but to set something in the Vulcan system is beyond rare. With its non-existent 10 moons that are all there, yeah. But
it's a good place to leave it, I think.
Great episode. Really enjoyable.
It was. I'm pleasantly surprised, and that's awesome. Put a smile on my face.
Mm-hmm.
So
good start to the day.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of, another thing that'd be a great start to our day or end of our day, depending on when you comment. Comment down below what you thought about this episode. We want to read your thoughts. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the notification bell icon so you don't miss live updates on live videos, edited videos, anything, breaking news even. We cover all that stuff. So you don't want to miss any of that. So make sure you're subscribed.
Or support the channel directly if you can and you'd like to. There's some great ways though. Monthly is a tremendous backbone of what we do here. So if you can, Patreon, it is monthly, or join the channel, also monthly. Or if you want to go one-time donation, go for Trekyards@hotmail.com. That is the PayPal. Or you can super chat on any of our lives during any of our many discussion points, on any of our many discussion things. There's a lot to talk about in the Trek
super
world.
Thanks on this video.
That is true.
Or any of our past videos.
Any. I mean, maybe keywords like time travel or alternate universe or body swap. Just on every one of those videos, put $1. See what YouTube says about that. I'm sure they'd like it.
So, until next time, he is Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.